It's Do Time with Pastor Steph.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Rise and shine. You're on with this Do Time with Pastor Steph. How are you this morning? That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. For this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. So, where were you all week? We started off shaking the Monday morning blues with the Do Time crew as we talk about the craziness going on in this world and how we're raising our children. Are we raising our kids to make good decisions? Are we helping them to make good decisions? Because a lot of times the things that we do will help to slow them down in life. If they learn to lean on us too much, that may not be good. You know, when they're small and we're catering to their needs and we're allowing them to lean on us, it might seem cute and helpful then. But if we do not stop in a certain amount of time, if we don't know the limit, because everybody's limit is not the same. I don't care if they've grown up in the same house. Sometimes you've got to pull back and sometimes you've got to stay an extra 5 minutes, but at some point or another, you are going to have to stop. And if you do not stop in a reasonable amount of time, it can backfire. So, if you listen to the stories of Monday, you'll definitely understand what we are talking about. Oh, well, let's talk about a Tuesday church folk day rolled around and we got to talking about girlfriend who twerked across the stage. Yep, she did a little hand wave and then she got there in the middle of the stage and she did the split and twerked. And some people felt that, it was okay, and some people felt that it wasn't okay. And again, teaching your children to make the best decisions is where we went to. So it goes to making better decisions to making the best decisions. She's looking to go to college, and what she did was very inappropriate. So I don't know. Hopefully she'll learn before it's too late. Wow, Wednesday rolled around and we got to talking to our girlfriend Vivian and her socially conscious segment. The Knicks fans are off the chain. So you have a problem. You celebrate with destructive behavior and you're angry. And there's destructive behavior. Listen, you can't have it both ways. You are going to have to learn again, teaching people how to make the best decisions. So the fans were now punished because they didn't know how to behave. So there was no MSG watch party for Wednesday night's game. And some of the other areas of watch parties had been shut down by the city because of their behavior. Well, did we learn? Absolutely not. Because when the Knicks won on Wednesday night, on Thursday, they announced that they had arrested over 50 people because of their behavior. Yo, what seems to be the problem? Again, like I said, if you don't invest in helping them make the best decisions, they'll be wondering what's going on. Why can't I stay out of trouble? It's because you're not making the best decisions. Well, let's talk about it. Thursday rolled around and we had a real good time trying to figure out who's really wrong, who's more wrong than the other. And, when we talked about the woman who ordered the noodle dish for her son, and because he didn't touch it, he didn't eat it, he had no desire for it, you felt it needed to be deducted from the bill. We can't live like this, people. Life does not evolve around us. And you not taking into consideration that from the moment you ordered that dish, the restaurant took a financial hit. Then you have to pay for what you ordered. If there was nothing wrong with it, then you had a responsibility to pay. No, she wanted to sue. She wanted to make noise. So, woo! You know, this week I see was about decisions. Yeah, decisions. So we're going to see how Freestyle Friday plays into our decision making. Are we going to run into some of the same problems? Well, we got some very interesting stories today, and I am definitely interested in hearing what the men have to say about these stories. So come on, go ahead and get that healthy breakfast. Go ahead and tell somebody, anybody, everybody that it's due time with Pastor Steph is on. And whatever you do, don't go anywhere, because we will be right back.
Self-sabotaging. You need the help. And what happens for men, and I really want the men to hear my heart, we'll try one therapist or one counselor or one service or one whatever, right? And because it didn't work the way we wanted it to the first time, we'll stop completely.
I've experienced that with so many individuals.
And people don't do that with food. They don't do it with sneakers. They don't do it with anything else. But what happens is when it's something that you know you need deep down inside, the one time I tried it didn't work for me. I say, how many sessions did you go to? Oh, it was just the one. I just wasn't really feeling it. They didn't understand me. It's like, they don't know you.
Right.
This is like the intake process.
Right.
They need to learn about you, and you have
Good morning, and good morning again. Welcome back to It's Due Time with Pastor Steph. I'm so sorry we lost the last part of that PSA, because guess what? Isn't that what we talked about with Church Hurt? He said, oh, I loved it. He said, you got one session of anything that's going to help you, and you wasn't feeling it. You didn't like it. You didn't think it was going to benefit you, and you just walked off. Didn't give it another chance. Didn't just kind of fulfill what it could have done. You didn't see it through. And lo and behold, you walked off. But you don't do that with food. You don't do that with, what else? Women. You don't do that with what else? A job. Yo. We gotta really get ourselves together, because this life is about life. And I don't understand. I'm gonna be honest. I'm looking around at people and I'm trying to figure out what seems to be the problem. Why are people not as tough these days as we were back in the day? Why, when it comes to God, everybody's shaking in their boots? They're afraid of what they have to take care of, or what you're going to find out on the other end, or you try something one time and then it's like it was like the Egyptian the Israelites going back to Egypt to be with the Egyptians. It was much more comfortable for them to go back opposed to push forward and kind of get out of that comfort zone of feel good and not thinking about the big picture. And I have, over the last few years, I've seen some Christian people run. And I'm like, yo, what is that? I don't understand what that is about. It may get tough. It may get tough. And I'm with you. But running is not the answer. Running is not the answer. So I don't know what we're going to do with life, because life gonna life. All right? Like it's going to be what it is going to be. Just because you don't want it there, just because it don't make you feel comfortable, just because it's not a feel good for you or what you know, and I haven't done it this way in 900 years, so what? So what? Come on. Make sure you're always walking in the truth. And I'm having a big problem with that. We're watching people who call themselves Christians who can operate until it becomes uncomfortable. And that there, my friend, is dangerous. Ooh, I like that PSA. I hope we get another opportunity to hear that and we get the full effect of it. Great job, Shantice. All right. If you're in the room, you know what Pastor Steph does. I want to communicate with my family. But the only way I know you're in the room is if you let me know you're in the room. Hey, Kitty girl, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We got our girl Tamika on the other side of this thing today. Good morning, Tamika. Thank you so much for joining us. Weston, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Kitty says, yes, great PSA, self-sabotaging. Boy, is that thing big. Now, I'm just going to say, bruh. Says, nice. Good morning. Thank you so much for the shout out. Roberts. I'm going to call you Roberts. Hi. Thank you so much for joining us this morning and giving us a shout out. We have the girl on the ones and twos this morning. We got to say good morning to those who help us hold it down each and every day. Good morning, Shantice. Thank you so much for what you do. Good morning, Anika. Thank you so much for what you do. Miss Grace, if you're out there, good morning. And we're glad that you are doing well. We're just going to take it that you're getting up and you're getting about and everything is going well for you today. All right. You know what we do on a Friday morning? We get our trivia going for our celebrities. And this week we're talking about some Black artist songs that were bigger than the soundtrack that they were written for or given to, okay, or associated with. All right, bigger than the movie soundtrack, bigger than the movie, possibly. I Will Always Love You, Whitney Houston, for the Bodyguard movie. All right, yes, we know I Will Always Love You ended up being a blockbuster. And they even played that on her, at the end of her funeral. Yeah, I remember that. What else? See You Again. And I remember that one. That was written for after Paul Walker passed away. Yeah. And that was for the movie Furious 7. All righty. Happy. Oh, we all know Happy. Happy. People were so happy with Happy it made its way into the church. Yes. And yes. Women and men were singing it in church. And that was for the movie Despicable Me 2 with the little minions. Yeah. All righty. What else are we talking about? I Believe I Can Fly. Yes. Whoa. Blockbuster. How many graduations did this song show up at? I mean, this was really a big one. People took it off the rotation after some stuff started coming out about R. Kelly. But this song was initially presented in Space Jam. Yes. Yes, go Aura. So what a shit. Every time I think of his deeds and how it affected how he moved forward and what the world thought of him afterwards, it's a shame. It's really a shame. All the women independent, throw your hands up at me. Yes! Destiny's Child, Independent Women Part 1 from Charlie's Angels soundtrack. Boy, did that become a mantra for women. Throw your hands up at me. Yeah. Alrighty. If you got some, come on. Let's put that up in that chat room. Gangsta's Paradise. Do you know The Shy just opened up their new season with that very song? And that was Coolio from Dangerous Minds. Yes. The first time I had ever heard of Coolio. Earned It is the name of the song. Never heard of it. But it's from The Weeknd. 50 Shades of Grey was the soundtrack that movie came from. Alrighty. What else? Sunflower. Now, never heard of this before. Sway Lee and Post Malone from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Alrighty. All the Stars from Kendrick Lamar and SZA from the Black Panther soundtrack. So we're talking about the songs that came from a soundtrack that became bigger than the movie. Yeah. All right. We got, let's see. Don't Let Go. Don't Let Go. Yes. En Vogue from Set It Off movie. Yeah, I remember that. Are You That Somebody? That Aaliyah song that became a blockbuster, but originated from the Dr. Dolittle soundtrack. Purple Rain. Yes, the blockbuster Prince movie soundtrack. That's where Purple Rain came from, the Purple Rain soundtrack. Okay, let's see if they have any. That's where their list ends. And I was trying to think of some. And hey, Tamika got a good one. A Change Is Gonna Come by Sam Cooke, played in both Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X the night before he died. That song, A Change Is Gonna Come, I mean, that song has hit many a soundtrack. I mean, many a soundtrack. But I do remember this being in the Malcolm X, one of the shows. It played. I think it was on, what's the one with Forrest Whitaker? The movie with the Godfather of Harlem. When they showed him, Malcolm X, riding to the Audubon Theater, that song was playing as he was going. So yeah, Tamika, that's a good one. I couldn't think of any, and I know there are some blockbusters in my brain, but I can't think of any. I can't think of not one right now. And Bad Boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Which was the theme song to what's the series? The series Cops. Was it Cops? Why do I remember Cops? Yes, I think that was the name of it, the series Cops. And they really used it in Bad Boys, the movie Bad Boys with Martin Lawrence and Will Smith. But that became a big hit and it was played all over the place. Yes, it was played all over the place. Yeah, thank you, Tamika. It was Cops. And that all you heard was that theme song. Everywhere where there was some cops running, chasing people or whatever, they played that song. So that was another one. And I mean, I didn't look at the list last night because like I said, I always want to be just, I wanted to hit me authentically. But as I was reading, I was like, yo, Stephanie, you can't come up with anything. So I'm sure there are some others more than these few where the soundtrack really, really pushed past the movie. I think Superfly. I don't know how many on here can remember the Superfly soundtrack, but that one there. Okay, yes, Katie, thank you. The Superfly soundtrack, even now, years later, because that was back in the 70s, years later, they are still playing some of the songs from that soundtrack. Yep. And they've sampled that theme song for years and by a many. So there's a lot of stuff the songs do that they didn't anticipate us doing. All right, so let's talk about some celebrity or entertainment news. Well, we heard that there was going to be a spinoff from the original Power, that was going to take us back to the origin, or I think it was called the originals or origin of Tommy and Ghost, played by Joseph Sikora. And why is his name on the tip of my tongue this morning? Shantice, please send me Ghost's real name. Oh my goodness. Well, I don't know if they've shelved it, if they've thrown it out completely, or if it's still on the back burner. But Power Legacy is coming out, and it is Michael Rainey Jr. who played Tariq, and what's his name? Oh my goodness. Yes, Omari Hardwick. Thank you, Shantice. I could see the name, but couldn't figure it out. Omari Hardwick. Well, Michael Rainey Jr., who played Tariq, and Joseph Sikora, who played Tommy, are going to get a spinoff where they will be reprising their roles as Tariq and Tommy, and it is going to be called Power Legacy. So they kind of gave us a hint that they were going to be going forward just by the way it ended with Power Ghost 2 ended, and the way Force ended. They gave us kind of like a hint that they were coming back, or they were going to be partnered up somehow or another. And sure enough, Power Legacy is hitting the Stars Network, and it's going to be a brand new chapter in the franchise. And they have ordered 8 episodes of it already to get it jump started. They say viewers have been asking for Tariq and Tommy. Now, I don't know if they've asked for this more than they've asked for Ghost. Because if I had my way, Ghost would be the one I want to look at. I think I can appreciate Power Book 2. At one point, I wouldn't watch it because I just couldn't stand Tariq. I did not watch it, and it was my girls who kept saying, "Ma, you gotta watch it. It's good. It's good." And I did watch it, and the storyline was really, really, really interesting. Tariq still was not my favorite person, But I want to see Ghost. But instead of getting Ghost, we're getting Tommy and Tariq. Now they're coming to New York. They're going to be operating out of New York, and they are going to try to take over the city. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out what happened with Omari Hardwick that they would try to put Tariq with Tommy opposed to Ghost with Tommy, because I'm sorry, I do not believe there has ever been a pair bigger than Tommy and Ghost. I don't care what nobody say. For me, Tommy and Ghost were the thing. And I think they need to listen. Y'all need to figure out what happened, but 50 Cent is petty. So I don't know what happened between the two of them, if there was a contract dispute or whatever. But this is definitely on the table. So let's see what's going on. Y'all let me know. Would you rather see Tommy and Tariq or Tommy and Ghost? And I always thought it was real ambiguous the way Ghost left the show, because it never gave us a body, which always leaves you to the ability of coming back. Now, wait, I got to go back a little bit. Did you join us last night on our review of The Chi Season 8, Episode 3? Well, I got to tell you something. So we were trying to figure out, not Ainsley and Shantice, but maybe me and some other people. We were trying to figure out the way they shot up Reg in Season 2. How in the world did Reg end up coming back in Season 7? Season 7. So now, if they can bring Reg back from the dead, who was shot all up, you can still bring back Ghost. And I think Ghost would get a lot more response than Tommy and Tariq. All right. Let me see if there's some comments up in here as to whether that would be better. All righty. Okay, we still got some comments about the soundtrack. Anika says the Eminem song Lose Yourself. That's now played on commercials and sports games. Okay. I don't know about that song. I don't know much about that song. Okay. And Katie says super fast soundtrack. Loved it. Yes, great music. All right. So Katie says, yes, Tommy and Ghost made the show. Big time. And I personally don't think that, they would be a good pair. Checking our comments. Hint, checking our comments in the chat room. So y'all let me know. I'm actually interested. I will watch Tommy and Tariq, but I'd rather have Tommy and Ghost. Because here's what's going to happen. You're going to have to bring back Tasha somehow or some way. I ain't interested. I'm not interested. I wonder if they're going to bring back Kane. I wonder if they're going to bring back, what's that chick's name? The one who was selling drugs along with them, Shantice. What's her name? I wonder if they're going to, bring back those people. They're going to have to bring back some familiar faces. I do believe that much, though. All right, what else are we talking about in the news? Let's see. All righty. Oh, I found an interesting article. Now, I don't know how many of you remember Nichelle Nichols. and she played Captain Uhura on Star Trek. Well, a very interesting story going on about her estate. So back in 2022, she was admitted into the hospital for heart failure. Yeah, she was having some issues at home, and because she had heart issues, they hurry up and called her an ambulance, and they got her to a hospital when she was having sudden heart problems. Well, they didn't do the cardio workup on her that the family believed should have been done. Instead, they put her in like an observation unit, and which was not where she needed to go. And they needed to actually transfer her to another hospital where they have like top-notch cardiologists on staff, and they would be able to get to a correct diagnosis as to what she was going through. Well, they did not do that. And instead, they gave her some kind of treatment, diagnosed her, and released her. And she died like a couple of days later. Yeah. So instantaneously, they went for a lawsuit for lack of care. And she actually passed away, like I said. And the family did get a winning on this lawsuit. Now, they sued and won $13 million. But check this out. Out of the 13 million, only 400,000 will go to her estate, because out in New Mexico, they can only sue a governmental agency up to a certain amount of money. And 13 million ain't the number. So she passed away in New Mexico. They sued in New Mexico, and $400,000 is all her estate is going to get, although they awarded them 13 million. So if that hospital was owned by a governmental agency, they fell under that clause, and that's what happened. That's what happened. So, that's like a kick in your butt type of thing. You get protection from your negligence because you belong to a governmental agency. Wow. What an out. Well, that's the out they got, and that's the out that led. Yep. So they may appeal it, but that's the law in New Mexico. So, whether you appeal it or not, you probably won't lose, because your lawyer should have advised you that this was that type of, hospital owner. You remember, a hospital has to be owned by, an entity or even a person. Yes. So, unfortunately, that's how that cookie crumbled. Effie, go ahead, Tamika. Thank you so much, Effie. I wonder if they're going to bring Effie back into this equation of the new Tommy and Tariq story. All righty. On to some other news. This was very interesting and had nothing to do with AI. So, talk about winning some money. You have Ricky Jones. Now, Ricky Jones was falsely accused of stealing a woman's purse 17 years ago when he was 24. He is now 42. He's been in jail all this time. And he always said he was innocent, that he did not do it. Well, while he was in prison, he kept running into a guy who looked a lot like him. And people would consistently mix the two of them up. And I mean look alike. Looks alike. So he told his attorneys to do some research because the two of them were in there together. And, you know, this, if people are mixing us up all along, could it have been that he actually committed the crime? Now, this, let me see. Did I say it? Yeah, Ricky Jones. So this is out in Kansas. Well, they did some digging and they found that, yeah, it actually happened. Shati, show the pictures. Show the picture of the two of them. These are two different people. This is not a mugshot and a regular picture. These are two different people. So one is Ricky Jones and the other one is Ricky Amos. And Ricky Amos was he was an inmate also in Lansing Correctional Facility. And when they did the digging, they found out that it was Ricky Amos, not Ricky Jones. So he spent 17 years. Now here, this goes back to what we were talking about yesterday. There was no fingerprints. There was no evidence of any kind. The only thing were two witnesses who said that was him. That's who they saw. So what they did was what's his name? The judge had the two of them in a lineup. And they brought the two witnesses back. And the witness could not tell the two apart. So they let Mr. Ricky Jones go free instantaneously. The judge did not take him through another trial for any reason. And they awarded him over $1 million for this mistake. Because again, we've learned in these type of cases that the states do have money for wrongful imprisonment. And because he was wrongfully imprisoned, he automatically got a piece of that pie. So he's very happy to be out right now, needless to say. But isn't that some, I was going to say, isn't that some price to pay? I always say, did God kind of put you away to save your life? Could that have been the case? Because it's all God's allowance. All right. Ketty says, wow, we have a check-in from Miss Grace, an official check-in. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Tamika says, wow, 17 years. Honest mistake, such a long time. No AI there, right? So that's another reason why I really wanted to talk about the story. Because, we've had these stories of the AI chaos and things like that. That was the last story we brought, was AI. But nope, this is straight human error. And looking at these two pictures, you can see how. Come on, down to the hair, down to the goatee, down to the middle of the chin. Yo, this is crazy. This is crazy. So that's what I'm saying. Did God kind of put you in Jonah's, situation? He got kind of swallowed up, and you kind of parlayed there for 17 years. So I'm sure that's, he's feeling much better about it right now. All righty. Let me get my conversation going with my brother Ainsley.
Hey, good morning. Good happy
Good
morning. Go Nick.
morning.
Go Nick. Happy morning.
Ah,
Friday morning. That's right.
good morning. Good
The
morning. How
champion
are you,
speaking.
Ace?
I'm doing all right. I'm speaking that to existence. That's right. We a
All
champion.
right. All right. All right. We'll find out tomorrow night. God
Oh yeah.
says.
Yep.
All right, Brother Ainsley. We got a couple of stories going on here. Well, we got the celebrity, the entertainment news that there will be a spin-off from the Tommy and Tariq stories, which will lead us to Power Legacy. Now, they talked about doing like Power Origins, which would kind of take us back to how Tommy and Ghost got started. So this is kind of coming to the head of the table. And this will be Tariq and Tommy meeting up in New York and trying to take over New York City, which we know was Tommy and Ghost's story. So my question to you is, would you rather see Tommy and Ghost or Tommy and Tariq?
Of course. What the real question? Who would rather see Tariq than Ghost? Everybody want to see Ghost, man. Come on now. Who want to see? I'm not knocking Tariq, but I mean, who would prefer Tariq over Ghost? Who in their right mind prefer to see Tariq over Ghost? What is wrong with you? You know, who would want to see that? You know, so because Ghost and Tommy, that was the team.
Yeah.
When they was you know, at odds with each other, that is the duo. You know.
Yep.
You know, but I think unfortunately, you know, I think, you know, 50, yeah, he is super incredibly petty.
Yeah.
And I think contract, you know, to get Ghost back, y'all gonna have to pay that man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna want to do that.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be to his detriment. I don't think there'll ever be another Power ever, because you've got 3 subsequent, and now you're running into a 4th. You've got 3 subsequent stories. You've got the Power Book 2 Ghost. You have the Power 3 Canaan, Raising Canaan. You've got Power Book 4, The Force with Tommy, and now you're coming up with this Power Legacy. You're trying to, you know, get the traction that Power got by giving us these subsequent stories, but there's nothing like that original story. So I don't care.
But isn't I always thought with Raising Canaan, wasn't it supposed to be at some point, or didn't it show some points the interaction beginning with meeting up with Ghost and Tommy and stuff like that?
Yeah.
So you kind of getting that into it anyway. You know.
Right. You're right. That was the plan, because I remember when Power, when they were showing the attractions for Raising Canaan, they showed Lil Tommy and Lil Ghost, and Lil Tommy had some cornrows going backwards, like that picture we just saw, and that never came to fruition. And now we're here at season 5, which is the finale season. And what's the point of bringing up Tommy and Ghost now? They're about to go off, because now you introduced Breeze. So it don't make no sense to go back to Tommy and Ghost and dig that up when you showed how you first met Breeze. So that story is gone as far as I'm concerned. So
it's got to be meaty.
Yeah,
it's got to be meaty. Something really dramatic. You can't come into weak stuff, man. It's like you know. And if you and honestly, if you can't make it meaty, leave it alone.
Right. That's exactly what I'm describing.
If you can't be, you know,
right,
as meaty as before, just leave well enough alone. You know?
I agree. And that's exactly what I'm describing. If we're gonna breeze through this entire storyline of him meeting Tommy and Ghost as a kid, what's the point now? It don't make no sense now if you can't really delve into that story because you're about to go off. You're about to go off. So, okay, well, you've answered that. Where's Pastor Jeff? Let me see what he's got to say.
He's gonna say the same thing. He gonna say the same.
Where is he? Hey, Pastor Jeff.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, bro.
How you doing, sir?
All right, sir.
How are you, Pastor Jeff?
Well.
Good, good and good. So, Pastor Jeff, we have Power Legacy hitting the screen soon. Would you rather see a spinoff of Tommy and Tariq taking over New York, or would you rather see them bring back Ghost so we can have a Ghost and Tommy taking over?
I can't stand Tyreek. He looks. He has no gangster look. He has no. He don't even look like he's supposed to be there. Like a little boy. His baby face. Ghost is the man. You know what I'm saying? And they messed up losing Ghost. Because Ghost is the man, point blank and simple. And I hate how he let his son kill him and kill Ghost off and all that. It's just he's so weak, man. It's weak. But I watch it just because. But honestly, I can't stand him having Tyreek, and now he want to go to the next level. Like Tyreek can really look like he a gangster, or you feel me?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because I agree with you. It'll always be Tommy schooling Tariq. Tommy ain't got nothing to bring to the table on the level that Tommy is. Where Tommy is, he's got like the book angle. Like the course correct. And that was part of Braden's baby. So
right.
Really,
it's always Uncle Tommy too. Is he uncle?
Right.
They need to resurrect Ghost. Have him come back to life.
Yeah. I think we need to get 50 Cent on here.
And then, first of all it's based in New York anyway, right? So I mean, you're talking the same location anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So,
they got something wrong. Today already on the Raising Cane, they was talking and they said Guy Brewer Boulevard, and don't realize Guy Brewer Boulevard used to be New York Boulevard when that time was. They messed up.
Yeah.
They messed up.
You can't advance it to where we are today because they're still talking about in the 90s back before, in the 80s rather, and back then it was New York Boulevard. So
that's a real New Yorker talking right there, man. Yeah, you gotta know that.
Right, it is. My mother.
Well, we was gonna catch that. It's like, yo, dude, y'all talk about taking over Guy Brewer Boulevard, but the setting of the time, y'all got them rotary phones. And you talking about Guy Brewer Boulevard. You can't do that.
Right.
Right. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be, as powerful. I'm with you guys. I don't think it's going to be as powerful as if Ghost were back. And this would be one time where 50 Cent needs to put his head, tail between his legs and just make it happen. Because if you want to make some money, that's where your money is. That's where your viewership is. I don't think all these other subsequent stories are going to ever match that powerhouse team. And you know what? Their writers are good enough that they could bring back Ghost, because you did leave it ambiguous enough for him to come back. Their writing team could smash that story and really immediately send us onto another level of enjoying Tommy and Ghost. Leave Tasha home out in her witness protection state. Please do not ever bring her back.
She got to come back. Tari, she got to do a cameo every once in a while.
No. And that's what I said about this legacy story. I agree. As long as there's a Tyreek, they're gonna have to her and Big Mama and Jazz. I ain't enjoy it. Leave me with the power of the story of Tommy and Ghost. And okay, so here's the other thing I want to mention. How you gonna bring Tommy back to New York when they still looking for Tommy in New York?
Well, I mean, you know,
we would catch that. We would catch that, as you say, Pastor Jeff, because remember when they first opened up the story of Tommy in Chicago, and this chick from The Shy was on Tommy from the beginning. They brought up that came up because they were looking him from Chicago, from New York. So the two connected, and that's why she was so on him. So how you gonna duck and dodge him in New York with Tariq? And I guess you could say the same thing with Ghost. But yeah, I think the writing team could definitely do what they need to do to get around that. So,
most definitely.
The comment, Shati says yes, bring back Ghost. Tamika says yes, Pastor Jeff is right. Tariq is not believable. Shati says unless Tasha is coming back to the ruthless like she was, they can leave her out. I agree. And she said that soft-spoken Tasha ain't gonna hit it. Yeah, and she ain't gonna cut it. I agree. All right, guys. I got the story of the lookalikes. Yo, he spent 17 years in jail. This is a real lookalike issue. Now, the Ricky Amos was in the same jail with him at a point. I don't know if the 17 years they were together, but at one point they were in this Lansing correctional facility and they kept getting the two of them mixed up. And that's what prompted Ricky Jones to ask about, hey, do some research. And lo and behold, there was the physical mix-up. Pastor Jeff, what you think about this here?
I mean, listen, what can I think about? A sad situation. Dude spent all that time for a crime he didn't commit. But that, because somebody looked like him, but that's the story of us black people. They say, the white man said we all look alike and we did it. What can I say about that? The dude got a raw deal because somebody looked like him.
Alrighty.
Did they pay him a whole lot of money?
Well, he ended up getting a little over $1 million out of their falsely incarcerated fund.
How many years did he do?
17.
Nah, $1 million? Come on.
That's what I say. Yeah,
that's a joke.
Okay, so that's what I mean when I say, what do you think? I mean, we know that lookalikes happen all the time, but I agree. $1 million for 17 years. You should have given me $1 million if I spent 1 year.
Yeah, you should at least got $1 million a year.
Right.
That's what I say.
Okay. Yeah. All right, brother Ainsley. Here's what I want to hit you with, Ains.
Okay.
So not only did you go to jail for 17 years, you went to jail for the only thing being identification. They had nothing else. They had no fingerprints. They had no evidence of any kind. The only thing they had was a witness that said it was him based on who he looked like, what he looked like. And you incarcerated him based on that alone. That's what I'm throwing your way.
Yeah. To me, I thought, I guess every state is different. you had to go by, like they say, the preponderance of the evidence, and we all know in this day and age that eyewitness testimony is not the best at all. You know, to me, there always had to be something else. It can't be just just a simple eyewitness. Like there had to be something else, because as was shown here, what you see today, what you think you see today, may not be the actual truth too often. It has to be something corroborating. And maybe they figured they had two eyewitnesses that corroborated each other. But I think I find it very hard to believe that's all it was. There was no DNA, no fingerprints. What was the crime for? Was it robbery? What was it?
It was they had him for stealing somebody's purse, stealing a woman's purse. And clearly it had to be something a little more than that for him to get 17 years. But that was the main part of what they said. They didn't really say, they didn't talk about anything subsequent of just stealing this woman's purse. And you just said yes for that.
So, first of all, I think some of this don't sound right. When you say something don't smell right, I smell something fishy here. Something don't sound right. Because 17 years for taking a purse, Yeah, it
was some type of attack physically, because they say her attacker. She describes her attacker.
All right, okay. All right.
Trying to steal a woman's purse in the parking lot of a Walmart. And he was given a lengthy sentence despite having an alibi. And despite the fact that there were no fingerprints, no DNA or any other evidence ever linked him to the crime.
So, what comes to my mind, what I would kind of pursue is, first of all, I think he needs to get more than $1 million, because I just did the math. That's like $58,000 a year. Your liberty be taken away from you. Out of 17 years, there's a lot that happens in 17 years. You probably have some family members that passed that you couldn't go to their funeral, their celebration of life services, weddings, graduation, I don't know what, kids and stuff like that. You miss a whole lot. You miss a generation of stuff. So it seemed to me, I would dare say, prosecutorial misconduct. How could you let that go further? It seemed like they're really trying to railroad this guy. So I would go to more prosecutorial misconduct, and specifically go against the DA specifically for that. Somebody gotta get this barred, because you can't be that doggone stupid because of your ignorance, or you want to get this conviction at the expense of my life.
Right.
There's got to be more accountability for this, in my opinion.
I agree, because I never understood, like I said in the article, they never discussed more than this woman getting her, somebody stealing her purse in like a mall or whatever. And I'm like, okay, you getting 17 years for stealing the purse?
Was she a white woman?
Probably.
Yeah, of course.
There it is. There it is, right there. That's what he got the time for. Don't touch the snow bunny.
Yeah, true that.
Because I couldn't see where even the time even made sense. And then when I read that there was no DNA, there was no fingerprints, I was like, well, how'd we get here? So it may be very well what you said. They said that, she gave a very vague description. And then when they put him in a lineup, check this out, y'all. They put him in a lineup with 5 black men.
I was going to say something like that. There you go, right there. There go that prosecutorial misconduct.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you when they want to set you up, they know how to set you up. They know how to do it. They know how to do it. And that's where we are right now.
And that's reality of stuff too. You know how many times, police, did that. There's black people, they put like same thing, put 4 white people in a room, and then who did it? And because it's the only black guy. Or, the person who did it is 6'4" and everybody else is 5'2".
Right.
Ridiculous. Right. Different weight and stuff like that. So I think, if it's not like people actually like the same height, same build, same look.
Right.
You gotta specifically do this.
That's right.
Or it can be like, oh, don't it look like number 2? Don't like number 2?
Right. Right. Or you see the TV or the detectives on the screen and they give you what they call it, that photo lineup, and they're tapping their finger.
Right. Yeah, this one right there, right?
Right. Does this one look familiar?
Yeah, right.
So you're right. No, set it up. That's what I said. I know we're gonna go to the other story today. I'm gonna get to that story today of Carmelo Anthony. But I tell you, they know how to set you up. They really know how to set you up. Shati says they really do resemble each other, but not the one who really committed the crime is already in jail with you. Isn't that something?
Because honestly, how come you don't have any DNA or fingerprint? So now, because you're talking a physical, purse, a physical item. Unless he had gloves on, there ought to be some kind of DNA, some kind of remnant. The technology nowadays, come on now.
Right.
There had to be some kind of residue of him on there. So that's false.
The DNA was that he was black.
I agree, bro. I agree.
Jeff said, listen, this is just real simple.
I know, listen. I'm saying it should be no surprise to us.
It's not. It's not.
This is how
it's not a
surprise.
No, it's not a surprise at all. Shati says 1.1 million was nowhere near enough for 17 years. They need to stop concluding cases because of what one person claims to be true. Ketty says he needs to stop concluding Oh, no, that's Shanti's. Ketty says he should have received more than what he received. Tamika says that's horrible that even with an alibi, he still had to serve time. He wasn't even there. Again, they know how to set you up. And Shanti says because even identical twins don't have separate DNA. They did not do their due diligence. And Tamika says, what are the odds that 1, they look that much alike, and 2, they have the same first name? Yeah. Ricky Jones is the person who was falsely incarcerated, and Ricky Amos is the one who is actually the guilty one.
First of all, I gotta be like, all right, yo, who your daddy? Somebody ain't saying something.
Yeah, because there's a whole lot of lookalike here, Ains. I gotta agree. Whole lot of lookalike. All right, Shantice, let's get that video going for our next story.
Hope this makes you as angry as it makes us. There's a viral trend around a Natasha doll in China, a black baby stress toy. Chinese social media users are filming themselves squeezing, stretching, and brutalizing the doll for entertainment. When asked why the Natasha doll had to be black, one Chinese social media user responded that a white baby, for example, would be too human and people would feel bad for hurting it. The Natasha doll is disturbing as is, and now Chinese social media users are filming themselves with real-life Natasha dolls. There are so many videos and entire channels dedicated to showing Chinese people abusing black babies, and then laughing about it. Content creator Shalom M took a deep dive on the many ways in which Chinese social media has created an entire market for abusing, harassing, and dehumanizing African children on camera. She mentions how the BBC did an entire documentary on a Chinese man who was living in Malawi and filming children without the consent of their parents and selling those videos to said Chinese market. China has a great firewall on all social media apps that are not Chinese owned. So they have their own apps like RedNote, WeChat, and more. Which means a lot of the content posted on these Chinese social media apps stays within China and is specifically targeted towards a Chinese audience and what they like. There's an entire market of Chinese adults who enjoy watching videos of Black African children being abused. As our African leaders continue to welcome a nation that does not regard us as human beings, what can we do about it? Let's talk.
Boy, we done went from the video games to the dolls. Oh, Brother Ainsley.
Boy. Oh boy, that is so upsetting. You know, it's like this you know, this is one of those things that they gotta be, thank God I'm saved. You know, that I do have some kind of moral compass, because you know it just angered me. You know, I hate to see any children being abused or being treated wrongly. But this right here is, it's like this mentality of like, you don't even, so basically you don't consider Black people even human. Yeah, so you feel like this is like nationwide, like this is okay, you know. I don't know if I want to see, you know, what's on my mind, where, you know, I'm like, yo, I don't want to say why it's on my mind. This is a Christian show, but you know, it's like, to me, yeah, it's a crying shame. It's a crying shame. And I'm the first time really seeing this and hearing this, and I'm like, well, if you really think that that's the way, then all right, then I think one way, then African nations, y'all don't deal with them. If you see what they're doing like this, then you know the best way how you deal with people is the pocket. You know, I think there's one nation that just excommunicating anybody white or Asian in a political process. You get them out. You know, no, we don't want your money, we don't want any resources, we don't need it, and no. And if we do this with our kids, I think they need to be dealt with severely. Everybody who think like that, I think it needs to be severely dealt with.
Absolutely.
How you think this? I think you really need to be severely dealt with.
Pastor Jeff, they ripping the Black child's head from east to the west. They pulling the legs and twisting the legs, and this is how they relieve their stress.
Listen, just think about what's in that Chinese food you're eating.
Shut up, Jeff.
you know how they feel.
Shut
about
up,
us.
Jeff.
It's a shame. My boy, he's a preacher too. He worked for a company that was owned by a Chinese lady, and he just got a settlement not too long ago because he's really a dark brother. When I say my boy, he's really a dark brother. Okay, and he kept discriminated against him at that company, and he ended up getting a settlement. I mean, it's just a known fact. They Chinese women will not marry a Black man, too much. I'm talking about, from China. They're going to marry white. They think white is right, and they think they're white. I don't understand why they do, but they think they're white. You know, so they're getting pleasure out of. They can't stand us black people. You know, in the core, and that's why I'm saying we be going to them Chinese restaurants in our black communities and don't know what they doing. Because you know how they
Jeff,
feel about
shut
it.
up. Stop. Ain't nobody asking
Because
all
you
of
can't
that.
eat the food no more. Now that you know.
Now that you say that, I'm done. I'm done. I thought fried rice and chicken wings was safe.
No, that's them African kids they be cooking up and serving to you.
You know what, Jeff? I'm finished. Now I'm really done, Jeff. Now I'm really done.
Yeah, but we all know you gotta be careful with that Chinese food. That's why I never got no like chicken fried rice or pork fried rice because you know I never saw the chicken always square up like that in our rice. You don't know what that meat that is. If I was going to get a chicken wing, I need to see a chicken wing. I gotta know it's gotta be identifiable that this is a wing.
As long as it's not human, then I'm okay. Because truthfully, you know, you cook most of those rodents and stuff like that, it's all gonna taste the same, and it's, you know, and it's meat. It's meat. You know what I'm saying? We just finicky about eating certain meats, you know, but you know that rat pie, you know, real good.
It's all in the sauce, right? All in the seasoning. You know,
put that duck sauce on it.
Oh my goodness. All right. Kenny says, what the heck? Shanti says, how is that any different from the adults that get convicted for watching and circulating child sex tapes or videos? And that's kind of like to Ainsley's point. You need to be dealt with, period. Tamika says, eat at Al Wong's. All of his products are real meat. I'm done. I'm so mad. Y'all done just turned this whole conversation into something else. I should have known that I couldn't bring this conversation to y'all.
Yeah, that's why I don't really hardly eat Chinese food, man. Cause a lot of time, not that I dislike it, but too many of the restaurants I went to, the attitude, you know, it's like it was clear, like you want my money, but you want to treat me any kind of way. It don't work like that, you know. It's like, I got into it a couple of times. You know, I got bad service one time, and expected a tip. All right, you want a tip? Here's your tip.
Wow.
Treat your customers properly, and then maybe you get a monetary tip. That's the tip. That's the tip I'm giving you. That's the advice.
Wow.
You know, so it happened too many times. So it's very rare. I'll go have Chinese food. Very rare.
Yeah, like I said, all I do is the fried rice and chicken wings. As far as I'm concerned, that's identifiable.
And then again, no, it's not because I'm
shut up! Can you leave me alone?
You see how small them chicken wings be like? And there ain't no chicken. That's a chick.
Oh my gosh!
Listen, I have Chinese food probably at least once a week, so I'm sorry. You know, and I know I'm probably eating rat, cat. But
so you done built up a tolerance for it. You good, man.
They know how to make it, man. They know how to make that rat and cat.
You got the right amount of duck sauces and the soy sauces mixed up in
you know
there, right?
Saying?
Good, right?
Just because it's your pet, it ain't my pet. I'm eating it.
Oh my goodness. Ketty says, especially the pork fried rice. Are you really eating pork?
Nah.
Oh,
you know they
don't eat pork anyway, so you're still complaining.
I'm gonna say I don't eat pork no way, so
I
wouldn't be ordering,
right?
Well, if you eat Chinese food, you're gonna add some stuff now.
Excuse me. Can you leave me alone? Can you just
come on? You gotta admit it. Come on,
Pastor Steph. I do want to let you know if you eat any Chinese food at all, trust and never so know there's some pork in it because they ain't cleaning that stuff. You know, they cook it with that pork grease and everything else.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you, Pastor Jeff. I do realize that all of the shrimp gets fried, same grease with the chicken.
Try to prepare that
same pot, same grease.
Yeah, you're right. The deep fryer got all the same grease. I shut up. Just shut up.
Listen, it's another thing. Next time you go into a Chinese restaurant, right? Go with your phone like this. Walk in it like this. So you videotaping them and watch how they act. Oh no, you can't do that.
Oh my goodness.
They want no proof of how they're serving your food that you're gonna put in your body.
Well, not only that, I'm not gonna go in there and now make them nervous because they could be really doing something to my food in the background.
Yeah, I'm very nice to them.
Yes.
Tease them, nothing.
I'd be like, I make special wonton soup for you, right?
Right. I'm not going there and inciting them to do anything. All righty. Here we go with the final conversation of today, of the week. We have been following this story very closely. Last we spoke, Carmelo Anthony in Texas, the track team. They had put him against a 12-member all-white jury, including the 6 alternates. And we said that he would not get a fair chance. And no matter where you moved him to, he wouldn't get a fair chance, period. Well, he's going to jail for 35 years. And he was convicted after they went through a full, quote unquote, a full trial. They say it took them a very short time with the fact that he was guilty.
Same day deliberation. Yep.
Yeah, they did not go past the sudden passion defense, which meant, you felt threatened and instantaneously you responded. They call that sudden passion. And that's what the defense was leaning on. And they were like, no. They say the jury deliberated for 2.5 hours. And, they rejected his argument. And that could have reduced the sentence between 2 to 20 years. So even with the sudden passion argument, if they did give him that, he was going to do 2 to 20 years. So what say you guys? Pastor Jeff, I'm going to start with you.
I am very disturbed by the whole situation. It's really been bothering me. I don't know Carmelo, whatever, Anthony.
Hello.
Yeah, it brought back a lot of stuff for me, as a child, because I came to school with knives. I came with nunchucks because I was always getting jumped in the neighborhood, and to go to school I was always scared because I got bullied a lot, so I carried weapons. You understand? And when I saw that situation, I was debating whether, he was going there because he had been bullied, and now I'm gonna deal with this time, type of situation, or, but then I'm hearing that it wasn't even a knife, and it was a compass with, one of those whatever with a little blade on it. And I'm,
okay.
I'm getting so many conflicting stories, but the bottom line was, them white folks there was gonna make sure he go to jail. Make sure. He killed the white boy. He had not a chance. And then I'm angry at his parents because they raised all that money and go buy a house, and you didn't get this dude a good lawyer.
Better defense.
Yeah, you let him use legal aid, and it's like, you had stupid parents, and then he was stupid because, dude, listen, think about what you about to do. Just, okay, it's a bunch of them. Get up and leave. Ain't no macho man. You can't beat everybody. You know what I'm saying? I got a lot of stuff about it, but it just really bothers me because the black brother had no chance. All white jury, he was guilty before he even, before they didn't even need a jury. They just needed it for legal purposes. And then they excluded any black juror because they were educators, all kind of any old reason. So you know what that was. It was just another lynching.
So I want to ask you a question based on what Pastor Jeff said, because we talked about this. The ladies talked about this the other day, and quite a few questions hit the floor. Before we go any further, there's Stephanie who says, hey, Steph. Hi. Thank you for joining us. She says, stay out the Chinese restaurant. They hate black folk. All righty. She says, why did the white lawyer say that having an all-white jury is a problem, being the argument of our history? They allowed jurors of black women to withdraw because they were educators. And that's what we read in the article. And that's what Pastor Jeff just brought up. So Ainsley, I have a question, because there were a lot of questions that came up, and Pastor Jeff addressed a couple of them. So he said he used to carry weapons to school because he needed to defend himself against the bullying. So the question, without answering Pastor Jeff just yet, one of the questions that came up was, did he speak to his parents? Did you speak to your parents and allow them to address this issue that you felt that you needed to address because it needed addressing at that point? Another question that came up was why. Pastor Jeff just brought it up. I laid it out as the Knicks and the Spurs. Why is Jalen Brunson sitting on the Spurs bench when Wemby said, get up and go to your own bench? This is not your bench. This is not for you or your team. Did it matter that a white person said it to you versus a black person saying it to you versus anybody having to say this to you? Why didn't you just get up and go? When you look at it from that aspect, can you really say, and I'm going to throw this in there based on what Pastor Jeff said, can you really say he didn't get a fair chance? Now, we're not talking about the white jury. We're talking about life. Did you get a fair chance?
All right, so let me make sure you're right. So you're considering. So I'm gonna make sure I get this correct. So he was sitting somewhere he was supposed to be sitting at.
Yes, that's how it started. What happened was the track teams have tents, and he was sitting in their tent. So Austin Metcalf, that's the way the story started. When it first hit the news, it's always been that way. And I'm going to go into testimony. So they said that when Austin said, yo, get up, get out of here, he said something to the effect of, like, you better not put your hand on me or you're going to regret it. And you'd be like, if you put your hand on me, you'll regret it. Something to that effect. So at one point, Austin from the other team, the white student, grabbed him. I don't know if it was grab him to move him, grabbed him because he took the challenge. I don't know. But he grabbed him. He physically did put his hands on him. In return, the automatic response was he pulled the knife out of his bag and he stabbed him. And I didn't actually catch the fact initially that he was stabbed in the chest until the subsequent, when the trial started, they spoke to two coaches. And the first coach they spoke to, his testimony was when he heard the melee, he went over there and he saw that Austin had the chest wound. The second testimony was it must have been the coach from Carmelo's side, because he said he put his arm around Carmelo and asked him what happened. He said he put his hands on me, so he pretty much responded. So that's how the whole entire melee got started.
Right.
But my question is, I'm not talking about the all-white jury. I'm talking about in that arena, because Jeff just hit something, and that's, like I said, that's what we were talking about the other day, the ladies and myself. He says Carmelo was stupid because why didn't you just get up and go? You know, why you had to be the macho man. So that's why I'm asking the question, did Carmelo really have a chance before the melee?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And it has nothing to do with black and white.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with black and white, because generally what I see happening here is I can say, get your stuff. You ain't supposed to be here. Get up. And it could be said, I said, Steph, get up. I can say, yo, Steph, get up. Two different things. All right, so that's just the words. So if I'm more aggressive like that, my reply is generally I'm going to match that energy. All right, but that's just the words. Now, you know, back in the day, you know, people who really want to fight, they'd be like, all right, whoever thought, you know, I ain't gonna start the fight, but if somebody just touch you, put your hands on him, whoever put that initial touch on. So if it was what was the first person who put his hands on the other had a right to defend himself. And it should not have been went to that extreme to death. But the aggressor is whoever put hands on whoever first is the aggressor. And the sorry had to say he had to lose his life. This ain't got nothing to do with black and white.
Right. That's why I said. That's why I want that, and you're with me. That's why I want to say. I don't want to talk about no 12 white jurors. I want to talk about the initial exchange. Yes, I agree. I don't want to hear black and white. I want to know Carmelo. Did Carmelo do what he was supposed to do, or did he miss the mark? What happened here, in your opinion? I'm getting it. Right.
And you know, sometimes, you know, you don't want to go to your parents for everything. It happened at the spur of the moment. You know, who I don't know, was he just tired, just happened to sit down for a moment or stuff like that? You know, tired, could be a little more aggravated and stuff like that. But once you put your hands on you, it's a whole nother situation. You know, how many times you may have been taught, you know, listen, somebody put your hands on you, you find whatever you can to defend yourself with. And if it's particularly is more than one, if it's a whole team, if it's by himself, you know, it's unfortunate. But it seemed like whoever, Metcalf, whoever it is, and got nothing to do with race, you put your hands on somebody. Didn't somebody tell you that first? You don't put your hands on people. You know what I'm saying? So it's sad all the way around. It's really sad all the way around. But
okay.
Yeah.
And okay, so let me read the comments. So Stephanie says, no, he did not get a chance. So he's or did something wrong. I think she's siding with what you're saying, Ains. Why did Austin not go to the coach to get Carmelo moved? Interesting question. Good question, because that's what I always teach my kids. Before you respond, there's always an adult in the room, or should be. Go to them first. Anything thereafter, now that's something completely different. She says a pocket knife was in his defense. All right. So Shanti says Carmelo set himself up by sitting on their side under their tent. Why am I provoking someone I already know is ignorant? Tamika says, They've been acting ignorant, ain't? If he's walking with a knife, there's something. When I said, did he go to his parents? If the defense, the word was, I'm walking with a knife because of what I've been experiencing. So that's why I asked the question about the parents. Did the parents know? Were they aware that he was experiencing this difficulty? And if they did they do anything to address this? Okay. So Tamika says, but regardless of how it is said, you weren't supposed to be there. Shanti says, God keeps teaching me to stop setting myself up for headaches. That's why if it ends up going left when I'm already trying to avoid, I get so annoyed. Stephanie says, I'm going to make sure Shanti stop highlighting for a minute because I'm getting confused here. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Stephanie says yes, because people don't talk about how black boys are getting surrounded by white boys. Carmelo ran into that tent because of it raining, and they thought it was going to rain. Or they thought, maybe that's what she's saying. Tamika says, Carmelo didn't have to stab him in the chest. There are a whole lot of other body parts available. Stephanie said, Carmelo did what he was supposed to do. These people said they did not know Carmelo, yet pictures was shown of Carmelo with a family. All right. So here's where I'm having trouble.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, something I want to address what Jeff said too, but go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
First of all, that the story they're talking about, the family took the money and bought a house and bought $150 Cadillac and stuff like that. I fact checked that yesterday. It's not true. They did have to move because of all the stuff that's going on. Right.
That's what we discussed as well.
You know, anybody that's $900,000 house and whatnot. You know, that was not the case. A lot of stuff is not true. And surprisingly how fast this misinformation goes out. I don't know if you realize it. You know, I don't really go on Facebook as often. I'm more or less checking Instagram. A lot of these posts, there are fake accounts. If you look at it, you see who the person is. You know, it might be a picture and whatever they said. It's a fake account or it's private. If you realize there's no substance behind it. So it seemed like there is this. I don't know what to say. It's AI. It's a generated thing going out from just promoting false lies and stuff like that. When you fact check
I see that.
Yeah.
But
so
how much money did they get? Because they raised some money.
Yeah,
they did. I think they had to move
quite a bit of money to help them move, because after the stabbing, the aura in the environment for him was very toxic.
But
I think they did have to move to a gated community.
But my thing is, you say nothing for a lawyer. You understand? You left nothing for the law, which was the most important thing, was to help your son beat this case.
Yeah, I get that.
Or get it moved where you wouldn't have had to worry about maybe an all-white jury, or get the whole thing moved. They've done that.
You need a good lawyer for that.
That's what I'm agreeing with you. Or get it moved, to another location where you may not have run into this all-white jury. But I want to go back because
that's not that easy. But go ahead.
No, I didn't say it was. I'm not saying it was, but that's the whole point Jeff is trying to make. Whether it's easy or not, you need somebody who's gonna fight for you like that, and that don't come from legal aid. So if they did not put the money into a defense attorney, because here's where I want to go. Here's where I want to go. Respectfully, with this information, whether he moved into a mansion or a hut is irrelevant to me personally. I'm still stuck on, what are we teaching our kids? See, I'm hearing some stuff that I'm personally not comfortable with. I raised 3 girls, and they got the same information all three of them. I was raised, and we talked about this before, I was raised in the era where my father said, if I don't care what happens, if somebody puts their hands on you, you better pick up a garbage can, a bottle, and do damage. That's all I do. Take up for yourself by any means necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I just happened never to be a fighter, and I never got picked on. Okay. So I raised my girls a little differently. I told them, if someone hits you, someone is intimidating you, someone says something out of line to you, if you are in school, if I send you to an after school program or whatever it is, if I send you to somebody's house, you are always under the authority of an older individual. The first thing you do is go let them know what's going on. If it continues, then you do what you need to do. Because at that point, I'm making several points. A, if she picked up a bottle or garbage can, guess what? You didn't do your job. You could have stopped this from happening from the beginning, which I agree with Stephanie's thing with Austin not going to the coach. The tent did not belong to you personally. And even if it did, again, there is an authority figure over you. Get up and go tell. Mm-hmm. Here's the problem that I'm having with Carmelo doing what he was supposed to do. I don't agree. I do not agree. My thought is, listen to the dialogue. The dialogue is, yo, get up. If I played a game that you laid out with him saying it aggressively, he didn't say it nicely, blah, blah, blah. If he said it aggressively, why was your response, don't put your hands on me because you're going to regret it? To that effect. Why didn't you try to circumvent that from happening? What are we ultimately teaching our kids? Because guess what? This is not, now he getting ready to go to jail for 35 years. What you doing with the people in there? All because you did not think of an alternative when you were out here free. Now you got to face as a 19-year-old kid, you are facing murderers and rapists, and they're not segregating him because he's in there for murder. Are we teaching our kids to just go to another? So Austin could have done better than putting his hands on Carmelo by going to the coach. Let the coach handle it. But did Carmelo do the same? Why are we expecting that Austin could have done the same when Carmelo did what he had to do? That's my question. We are not teaching our children alternatives to what we can do to keep out of jail. Because if here's what y'all saying, he did what he had to do. It didn't matter the consequence. Without you verbally saying that, it was like no thought for the consequence. Now he's in Texas. You live in Texas, my boy. You ain't gonna have, other situations and other, because I refuse to believe that here in New York he would have ended up with 12 white jurors and 6 alternate white jurors. I don't care if it would have been 2 black people. He wouldn't have ended up with 12 and 6. But he's, in my opinion, there was no preparation for trying to prevent this from happening. Why is that not the dialogue? Why is that not the thought? That's my question. So I'm going to go, hold on, Ace. I'm going to go to you first, Jeff. You said that he should have made a better decision. How come we're not teaching this to our kids?
Well, here's the thing. Most are not going to make a better decision. I happen to be that kid, and I realized that looking back, that thought before I did things. And even as an officer, when I was an officer, I had somebody pull a gun on me, and I pulled the gun on them, but I didn't blow them away. I could have legally blew them away, but my mind said their gun jammed. I would have been dead if it didn't. Okay, they dropped the gun. Okay, and I know a white officer would have blew the kid away, but I couldn't blow him away because he was, you know, I saw him as a child. I saw his stupidity. I also saw me. I was in a place where I wasn't supposed to be. I thought it all out, but I always was that person. Most ain't gonna be that person. Carmelo walked in there probably with a chip on his shoulder. These white kids,
Right.
you know, they probably already been doing some racial stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And they bet not touch me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they bet not say nothing to me, and they bet not touch me. Otherwise, I'ma stab them. He went in there with their mindset.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And they did exactly what he thought they would do. And he did what he intended to do.
Right. And I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. And that's why I'm asking again, from this week, all of our stories have come down to the bottom line. Are we making not just even better decisions, but the best decisions? So let me read these before you comment, Ains. Let me read the comments in the group. It's not true. They could not even get the money raised. Okay. I read over 7 different areas, and they got money raised to move. I believe that if they wanted to, they could have collected the money to get they've done it before. Did we wait long enough to do it? Did we have the opportunity to get it done? Fox News are not journalists. These people are lying about the stories. I do believe, like Ainsley said, all the information isn't correct, but I'm sorry, everything ain't a lie. We're gonna have to deal with what is the truth. Stephanie says, because Austin and Hunter are bullies. Shanti says, right, as Stephanie, so why am I provoking the bully? And that goes back to what Pastor Jeff said and what we talked about earlier in the week. Them being the bullies, and how am I handling the bullies? And my question goes back to, what did the parents know about Carmelo's prior experience? Did they know? How much did they know? And what did they do with what they knew? Shanti says, I just had a conversation with a man about this the other day. He agrees that Carmelo was right all the way and he did nothing wrong. It's sad. Shanti says, right, Pastor Jeff. That's why the question is, why provoke? All right, Ains, what you got?
All right, it's like this is America with the KKK, America, and whatnot. And I see why people say Carmelo, he did the right thing on those circumstances, because I think our parents thinking, and like say your father was, we're not thinking beyond that moment. We're not thinking until something like this happens. We're not thinking that, okay, this could be a murder case. We're not thinking about an all-white jury, how injustice the criminal system is, the injustice that goes on, particularly in the Texas state. That we're not thinking that far. We're just thinking that, okay, you're being hit, you've been assaulted, they have to be addressed right then. Tell a teacher, but if it happens, I can see why that is. But when you think of more of a broader picture, like you said, how much did the parents know? And in side way, that's why to me it's good to be in good communication with your children. So
right. Absolutely.
So on a day-to-day, so perhaps a parent was maybe with a pick. If there's some tension going on along, having some foresight, then you can instill this kind of thinking. I say, yo, listen, this is how they are. But as we say now, regardless of what happens, I need to make sure you come home tonight.
Right.
So if it means, don't look at that you getting punked, or it look like you weak, or it don't look like that you're you less than a young man.
Right.
If you got to take it down, so to speak, I need you to be back home, regardless.
Right.
And we can deal with this another way, But most time we ain't thinking like that. I never hear I wasn't talked to like that. I never got that kind of, Jeff is like original, but I never got to stuff like that.
Right.
So that's why I can at first I can see why he reacted the way he did and stuff like that. Because oftentimes, as teenagers, we do things, we ain't always telling our parents everything that's going on.
Right, because we don't even seem like we want to be punks to the parents.
Right. Or we already know what they're going to say.
Right.
I'm going to have to understand blah blah blah.
Right.
But it's the broader picture here, particularly nowadays, because as soon as you saw them jurors, if you already know, it looked like they couldn't wait before the trial started.
Yeah,
they couldn't wait just to hang that boy.
Yeah, he didn't stand. We said it from the beginning. You got 12 people sitting against you in the jury. And you always have to think that, black or white. I have to think that I'm the underdog here because I'm sitting in this chair. How am I going to emerge at the end of the day? Well, you were already smashed with an all-white jury, because if 5 of them felt in a negative manner, then you in trouble, because that's easily where they could push the rest of this team into. Let me read these comments real quick. Shanti says, she's quoting Bible, be angry at sin, at immorality, at injustice, at ungodly behavior. Yet do not sin. Do not let your anger cause you shame, nor allow it to, lest until the sun goes down. Psalm 4:4. And this is another scripture. And do not give the devil an opportunity to lead you into sin by holding a grudge, or nurturing anger, or harboring resentment, or cultivating bitterness. And that's Ephesians 4:26. Shanti says God's word shuts it down every time. Stephanie says Carmelo did not provoke those boys. Carmelo was sitting under the tent minding his business. None of the others had a problem with Carmelo sitting under the tent. Here's the problem with what I'm envisioning. Like I said, I gave it the Knicks and the Spurs. I disagree that if Jalen Brunson or Carl Anthony was sitting over in the Spurs, they were minding their business. To me, it's all about perspective. You're not minding your business. Here's the problem. You're absolutely right, Steph, when you say none of the other kids had problems. The reality is everybody ain't gonna always have a problem. We have already established that the 2 brothers were bullies. So guess what? When Carmelo went and sat on their bench and he said, yo, move. If I was sitting there because I was trying to find shelter from the rain, why didn't I just say, yo, chill, I'm here because it's raining, give me a minute? What happens to our words? I'm having a problem with us not. See, here's the thing, and I've said this many times here. And again, this is what I teach. It's not just what I feel. If you don't want the cops following you, I have a young man. He makes really, really good money. Oh my God, really good money. And he buys what he wants. It's what he's earned. He has every right to buy it. But this ain't the world we live in, where you can buy it and act the way you want to act. So you a young black man with an expensive watch on your wrist. You always looking, you're always looking tight in your dress. You're always well groomed. Your hair, is always well cut. Blah blah blah. What did he go get? an expensive car, a Benz, one of them cars. And I prayed for him every day when he had this car. Because of the world we live in, he wasn't doing anything wrong, but you attract certain attention. What's one of the areas we attract attention? The cops. We don't have to be doing anything, and the cops will roll up on you. Now here you are flashy. You earned the money. You ain't sold no drugs. You can pull out a pay stub. You earned the money. But we're living in a world where we have to defend ourselves even when we're innocent. So my thing was, please don't be out there speeding, doing all kinds of things in the car, because guess what? Now you attract attention. I didn't say don't buy the car, which I would have hoped you didn't buy the car. But again, it's your money. You want to spend it the way you want to spend it. I'm not mad at you. Please do not do things that will attract unwanted attention. Now, let's go back to this situation. You're attracting unwanted attention. If you honestly sat underneath that tent because you were finding shelter from the rain, then coach, I'm over here because it's raining, or automatically. But see, again, you went to it about, and Pastor Jeff, it's about how I look. Shantice is 40 years old. Do you know, there are so many times I've had to, she's come to me and she was like, if I don't say this, or if I don't do this, I look like a punk. And she wasn't using those words. Let's just be honest. And I would have to say to her, Mom, listen, you need to think of the big picture here. It's not about how you look. How are you emerging from this thing? Are we talking to our kids about this? Or are we going to keep talking about what somebody else is doing? The wrong someone else is doing? Because at the end of the day, I needed Shantice, and Tamasia to come home. Well, not just come home. I needed these girls to come home intact. I don't need to have the cops standing at my door. I didn't need to have you telling me they was in a grave. I don't need for you to tell me they locked up. I needed them to come home. And my fear in this world right now is, are we teaching our kids? Don't worry. Listen, this is why I say God means everything. This is why I say God means everything. Because to me, that's part of what the injustice is. It's funny, we've been studying injustice and how God feels about justice. You listen, this man just spent 17 years of his life. He wasn't even there. But you know why he got caught up? Because he looks the way he looks. He wasn't white. You Hispanic looking, black looking, we don't know which side of the fence you on. But like Pastor Jeff said, if the victim was white, poor man, he ain't stand a chance. How are we navigating? And I'll let you men finish. Then I'm going to read the comments. How are we navigating through this world that we must live in? This ain't no option for us. How are we navigating through this world to make sure we come out alive? Pastor Jeff, I'll start with you.
It's going to come out alive. We gonna die. But you are right. We have to teach, and it's a shame because we have to teach our kids differently than they teach their kids because of the way things are. We want them to come home. You know, I'm worried about my son because he didn't come home last night, you know. But, you know, chances are he all right, but he think he grown. And, you know, he don't realize you're still living in my house. You can't be grown in my house. But, but you know, it's like, you know, I constantly tell him, I bought him a BMW in high school. He was 16 going to high school, driving a BMW to school. And He wilding out, crashed it the first day. I let him drive it, and all kind of stuff. And then it broke down, and I would not fix it. Now he got him a simple car right now. It's a Chevy Cruiser, right? That he could afford to buy, and I feel more comfortable with him with that because of his, because he's a black boy and he liked to flash. And I'm like, okay, I'm more comfortable because he can't flash as much as he could anymore. You understand? But he won't learn the lessons I'm teaching him. He won't listen. So it's like you got to do stuff to offset that. But it's hard. It's hard, But you're right. We got to teach him different. We got to teach him even to know how to walk away because, I tell him stories how some days I ran. People in the neighborhood to this day said, be telling my son how I was. And they was like, oh man, you didn't mess with your brother because even though he wasn't a big dude, he gonna fight you. He gonna fight back. But I had to tell my son, dude, they don't know about the times I ran. I ran because it made sense to run. It was too many. I can't beat them. I won't win this. So I ran, but you gotta teach him. You gotta teach him offense and defense.
Okay.
Go New York Knicks, though.
Ames, what's the final word, my brother?
I guess the bottom line is that we have to teach and pray for one another. Really go in depth, teach and pray. It's a shame because I listened, but what you said and Pastor Jeff said, I reflect on situations I've been in, similar, wherein, when in interaction I had with the police, and it got to the point they was being physical with me, and the only reason why I didn't swing back, and I got to a point I was like, I got to a point where like I don't care. But the only reason what held me back is that the officer, I had one of my good friends was a cop too, and he looked just, and it was Purcell. He looked just like him, same height, same build and whatnot. And, it took me. I was on the cab, took me out the cab, kept throwing me up against the car. After a while, you get tired of that. It's like, well, if it's going to be that, I'm going to swing. You going to do this? It's going to be that. Fortunately, it didn't get to that. But it's a shame that, because some other people's deficient humanity for another, we have to go to the extreme and take this on. But like you said, the bottom line is we need to be able to come back home safely. And we got to pray that, God teach us, and we pray so that our actions will make us go home. You teach our kids, like the broader context. Look, it's not about just that incident. It's, as we say, it's the whole political system, the whole judicial system.
Right.
It's not fair.
Well, right.
It's not fair. And a matter of fact, as you mentioned about the young man, my same friend Purcell, it got to a point he was making good money. Mind you, he is an officer. But he saved this money. He got himself a nice high-end car, and he is a cop. And he gets pulled over.
That's right.
By police being treated, being profiled.
Right. Yep. It happens.
You know what I'm saying? And of course, he got to go on him. So he had even them. He going to do stuff as an officer and stuff like that. So, but it's like, so we got to suppress our desires, our wants, and all right, so I want a Benz G wagon. I want a Benz S class convertible, whatnot. I shouldn't get this because what may follow behind it. It's sad. It's sad.
But I wouldn't even go there, Ames. My thing would be, like I told the young man, I said, listen, if that's what you want, understand the times we live in first. Before you get this, understand the time we live in, and that you are walking around, whether it's right or whether it's wrong, whether it's fair or whether it's not, you're walking around with a bullseye on you. So if you say, you know what, I'm going to buy my car because I've legally earned it, like your friend, the police officer. I will legally earn it. But then, like I said to you, my next piece of advice to him was, you're not white. So if you do buy this car, make sure you don't do anything to attract. And I don't want to push the belief that we just simply can't buy or can't have because there's a bullseye. But look at what God is doing in this progression of life. Because at the end of the day, we're not gonna be able to do what we want to do anyway. You follow what I'm saying? I don't care who it is. We ain't gonna be able to do what we want to do, no matter how big you get in this world. You cannot do what you want to do. So if God has to teach us this from this angle, again, an unstable man is unstable in all his ways. Well, go in the reverse. As I'm learning to do this in this area of my life, then I'm going to learn to do this thing across the board of my life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I definitely get you. I agree.
I'm growing across the board. So right now we're teaching our children there's an injustice in this world, many injustices in this world. And we're teaching them how to navigate through it. And in doing so, from a child, we're teaching them more than just how to handle quote unquote said injustice. So I don't want anyone to walk off believing that I'm saying, and I'm not saying you are, but I wanted to make sure I clarified. I didn't tell him don't buy the car. My prayer as a mother, you know, oh Lord, please don't buy that car, for many reasons. Not only the police, but look at the thieves out here. How many people want to take your stuff and will kill you for your stuff because they can't have it, because they don't want to go out here and make the money to get it? Now you become a target on many levels. So that was like, oh Lord, please don't buy this car. But if you're going to buy the car, make sure you're not out all 2-3 o'clock in the morning and you ain't got a garage to drive up in and close the gate remotely behind you, and you go in the house from the inside. Because guess what? If you parking on, I'm serious, you know what I'm saying? It's terrible that we gotta teach this. But if you gotta park, like right now, when we moved here, you could park right in front of the door. Now, when you park, you gotta park possibly 2 blocks over.
Oh, that's like every area.
But here's my point. When we were able to park the car in front of the house and come right in the door is one thing. But if you're parking out 2 doors away at 3 o'clock in the morning, what are you up against possibly? So that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of promoting how we talk to our children and what we talk to our children about, because it's going to simply save their life. Going, not just now, but as adults. So, you know, we have to stop thinking, you know, about just these things, because what's being said is accurate. We were water hosed back in the day. Black people were hosed down by water hoses and dogs. We're not getting the hoses and the dogs, but Lord have mercy, are we getting it? We're getting it the same way.
Modern day way.
Right.
And a lot of us, we like to go back. They don't want to go back. You got to treat it as those are the days we are in now. That's right. All righty. Guys, it's great. Always great talking to you. You always send us into a thought-provoking weekend, and we pray you have a blessed day. Thank you. All right.
As well. All right.
Be good. Enjoy the weekend. Go Knicks.
All right.
Yes, go Knicks. All right, let's read these comments before we close out of here. Stephanie, you need to come back every day, girl. Keep this chat room jumping. Why don't you teach that you as a Black boy would not be looked at as a child compared to white folks? So these white children are not your friends. I'm going to come back to that. Teach and let it be known these white folks from a child is not your friends. I don't care how nice they claim to be. This is your oppressor. The Bible speaks of the Israelites and how other nations. Okay, I guess this is going to be continued. They have a right to buy your car and make sure you have a camera on you. Okay, good advice. Good advice. If you're gonna buy that car, buy the camera. As a black Christian, God has to teach you that these white people are evil and they are jealous of the Israelites and they are your enemies. Hey, Adele, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Go Knicks. Love you, Pastor Steph. Love you too. All right. So let me close, and I'm gonna address, and it may be with your agreement, it may be without your agreement. All right. So the God that I have learned and studied about is a God of justice, not a God of these people hate you, you're inferior to them, and white people are not your friends. I don't think it's fair to ball up every white person, and I tell my girls or my nephews or my niece or whoever it is that all white people are against you because they're looking to oppress you. There are people in this world who are not black, but who love you, who will work for you, who will advocate for you. You don't have to come from where I've come from to understand that I am enduring, that my race has always endured. Because to me, if this is what I'm teaching my kids, then I'm teaching my children that God says everybody's been made in his image. So despite the fact that we were born in sin and shaped in iniquity, we do have to realize there's going to be some nice in everybody. Now, how much nice is different, but we have to understand, because we were made in his image and in the image of Christ. Everybody was made in the image of God and Christ, that we have to understand that there is some nice in everybody. Now, here's how this works against us sometimes, because you have those people like Jeffrey Dahmer's mama said he was in heaven because he did some nice things. Well, the things that Jeffrey Dahmer did, the bad things outweighed the nice things. He was murdering, cooking, eating people, deceiving people. Well, how many people was he actually nice with? But in her opinion, because he was nice, that somehow got him into heaven, is what she believes. Now, when I hear women say all dogs are men, here's my response to them, because that's equivalent of saying that all white people are our oppressors and they are not our friends. So when I hear a woman say all men are dogs, I ask them, what does this say for God? Does this say that no man that God has ever made, a male, can be good? Because you didn't just said all men are dogs. Now, you might be saying all men are dogs and you're only talking about 99%, that there's this 1%. That's not for us to say. We're not the creator. We cannot believe. I know a God, if we're all going with this Bible, and I always tell people my first question is, where are we getting our source of reference from? Where are we getting our source of reference from? Are we getting our source of reference from the Bible? Because if we're not both talking about the same source, now, whether the same source is the book that's written by, Shantice, or the book that's written by inspired men, it doesn't matter what source we're talking about. But I am not one personally to engage talking about things, and we're talking from several different sources, because that's the first problem. If we can agree that we're talking about the Bible, then I need to believe what I'm reading. And despite the injustice that we saw in the Bible, God and Jesus, they push love. The 10 Commandments is built on love. How do we love God? And how do we love our neighbor? It's not written for the white. It's not written for the black. It's not written for the brown and the yellow. It is written for man. So unfortunately, I can't subscribe to I teach my kids or whoever or the church as a pastor, don't trust white people because they were our oppressors. They are our oppressors and we can't trust them. I have to teach. God taught love. God in this Bible, Jesus taught love. He walked love. This was the same man on the cross that as they were killing him, he was pleading for these very people. He wasn't pleading for the white. He wasn't pleading for the black, but he was pleading for all people who were killing him. I don't want to say Romans, Jews, because that's another issue. When you talk to Jewish people, you can't say to them, you can't say to them that, you know what? Hey, you know, the Jewish people were responsible for Jesus ending up on the cross. They don't want to hear that. They want to blame the Romans. And the Romans want to blame the Jews. What I do teach is you let this Bible and your relationship with God be your guide. Let God give you the discernment of who you should trust. Because I'm going to be honest. I will never work for another black person. And I'm black. So I would sooner go work for a white person than I would work for a black person. Because when I worked for the black person, they treated me like dogs. The entire group of them. Well, no, I ain't talking about no one. So do you see how you could get into, you know, well, I'm not working for this. I'm not working for that one. Now, whether God is pleased with that or not, he understands why I say what I say. I'm talking over 30 years of experience. I'm not talking about no 5 years, no 5 months, no 5 weeks. I'm talking about over 30 years of work experience. It's how I've arrived to where I have arrived. So if you have arrived where, you know, one set of people are just no good to us or whatever, that I can't stop anyone from believing that, but I can't teach anything other than God and Jesus are love. When you develop a relationship with him, he will give you the discernment as to who to trust. Now, here's the thing. Will we trust people who are not trustworthy? Yes! Yes! We have divorce rate in the sky. Why? I didn't marry a white man. I didn't marry a white woman. I married a black person who at the end of the day could not be trusted. So we're going to walk across this even in the Lord. We are going to trust people to speak what they're going to do and to be trustworthy. And we're going to find that at the end of the day, they're not going to be people of their word. I can't get with this people or that set or that set. You know, we talked about not trusting the Asians with our food. Well, we already know we can't trust Asians with our children toys because it came over to America toxic. Killed how many? That's how we grow. We learn to not trust based on experience. Now, I didn't have to give my child a Chinese made toy or toy made in China to not trust the Chinese people with toys. I've heard enough. I'm not going to buy that toy being imported from China or exported, whichever way we're talking. So we need to understand that Jesus and God is love. That's why we promote every day to develop a relationship with him, with them, so that they can navigate you into where you need to go. Everywhere, you can't go everywhere as a Christian person. You can't go everywhere as a non-believer. Everybody can't invite you when you're just going because you're trusting. Go with God. Let God teach us, how to trust. Forget about who, because again, we could work up on our own and we don't learn that. We need to learn how to trust. What are the components that, pay attention, we need to live by? Because I'm tired of living in a world where I'm constantly hearing all of these standards, and when I look over at you, you ain't got none. Or everybody got to have all these standards, and when I look over at you, you got very few. So there's a whole lot of stuff we need to learn. And what I have been really promoting for the last few months is give it to your children. And the only way we can properly give it to our children is if we give our lives to God. Because see, what we call love, my father telling me to do your damage with a bottle and a garbage can or whatever you got was his love. All he saw was his girls leaving the house every day. He was a man. He knew the streets. He knew the streets, and he knew what we could possibly run up against. But in the generation that I was raising my children in, I had to make sure they learned more than that. So now the generation that we're in, I have to teach my granddaughter extensions of what I was taught and what I taught my girls. I have to teach my granddaughter an extended understanding more than I taught her mother. Why? Because of the world we live in. It is just not one way to see the world. It's not one way to navigate through this world. We have a responsibility. If we love our children, we need to present everything before them. And we need to teach them how to look out for things, what to look out for, understanding that we have to take ownership for our behavior. We have to take accountability for what we either do or we don't do. As parents, are our children really crying out to us because they have not said anything? We can't assume that everything is okay with them. We have to trust that what we're teaching them is what they're keeping, and we have to stay on top of them. We have to dialogue with our children. How was your day? What's going on? How are your grades? What's going on with the teachers? How are you getting along with the other students? You were traveling today. Did everything go okay? We as parents, as grandparents, as aunties and uncles and guardians, we have a heavy job in front of us, because the job ain't just if somebody do something to you, pick up that garbage can, pick up that bottle, do damage. It's more than that. It's more than that. My father hates the word nigger. You cannot say the word nigger around him. He comes from a generation where that was really, really degrading. It ain't a kick it word. You can't say nigger in front of him. And subsequently, that came from, not subsequently, but it originated from his experience, and it led him to where he is now. So again, we're passing information based on a whole lot of things. We're passing information based on what we've seen, what we know, and where we are. So again, let's teach love. Let's teach love. Let's teach the love of God. Let's teach that God loves justice. Plain and simple as that. And what we see as justice is not maybe what God sees as justice. You know, we see people walking off, they didn't get no time, and then they end up getting killed later. All we saw was they didn't get locked up. We don't know how God is going to ensure, and that's the thing we need to also make sure we keep in our mind. He will ensure we get justice. But one of the things we have to do is walk in his way. Because if we don't walk in his way and do it the way he wants us to do it, and we walk in our own way, that means we're going to be making decisions of our own. And let me help y'all understand something. Any slight movement out of alignment with what it should be, and I'm not here to talk about anything specific, but any movement outside of what it should be, we could throw the whole thing into a tizzy. That's why we have to dialogue with our kids. That's why we have to walk a straight line as parents. That's why we need to seek God in everything we do. Because even in the Lord, we don't do it right. Now, what happens to the non-believer? What happens to those who are paying God no attention? So this Carmelo Anthony situation was horrific from the beginning. Good, bad, right, wrong, or indifferent. It was bad. Whether he was bullied first or whether he wasn't bullied first, the whole situation was bad from the beginning. Did I help to make a bad situation worse? Is what I always have to think about. Am I going to allow God to do this? I'm just going to step up and walk off. I didn't teach my daughter you know, when your people fight, you jump in and fight with them. And my youngest girl is the one I really had to have that conversation with. She was like, "Ma, you know, they was jumping my best friend." You got a phone, you call 911. Because I'm going to tell you something. You don't know what in the world happened before you got there. All you're seeing is some girls walked up on your best friend and ended up being jumped. You know what she found out later? There was a whole lot of talking that had been going on at one point. And when I was telling her this, I was like, listen, you can't get involved because you are fighting a fight you know nothing about. Now, some people would not agree with me. No, that's your people. You got to have their back. Call 911. That's the way you have her back. Because if you lose your life and I then find out that this wench had something to do with her being jumped, it wasn't just these girls just didn't like her, which was the story she was telling. And she said, oh, well, she didn't tell another piece of the story. So now I'm burying you because you trust what she says. And you're gambling right now, Tamaja. You're gambling right now as to whether she's being honest with you or not. Come to find out there were pieces of the story that nobody knew about. She didn't tell it all. Again, how are we dialoguing with our kids? Some parents would smash me for telling my kids don't get involved. I'm sorry. I want to make sure that my daughter comes home. It's not that I don't care about your friend. I love your friend and I want her to get home. But has your friend put herself in a position for these girls to jump her? And from what came out later out of the friend's mouth, had to eventually tell the truth. And she regretted what she had done to bring that on herself. But look at when it came out. So we got to be real careful of how we dialogue with our kids, the information we filter into our kids, how we cover our kids. There's a whole, this is huge. And my heart is broken for my son going to jail for 35 years. My heart is broken. I want y'all to remember the day I cried. So there's been a few times I've cried on this broadcast. My 3 are in the house at work. We ain't talking about my 3, my granddaughter, my niece, my nephew. Children I don't even know. But my heart is broken that this is where we are. And my prayer to God is that we do better. Because we can't help what the world is doing. We can't combat the enemy from what he's going to do. We can't stop him from what he's going to do. Because the word of God says that no weapon formed against me shall prosper. That's justice from God. It doesn't say that the weapon won't be formed. How are we moving? Understanding that I don't know the weapon that's going to be used. I don't know how it's going to be formed. I don't know at what point it is going to be formed. But I do know that at the end of the day, it will not prosper. Now, will it not? Will it be stopped at this point, or this point? But what I do have to trust is that God promises justice. His word says so. Am I going to be smart and walk into his justice, or am I going to take justice into my own hands? Well, we've already been discouraged from doing that. Vengeance is mine. So the behavior or the action taken does not indicate that we are following through. Vengeance is mine. We have to be very careful with what we pay attention to in the Word of God and how we walk through it. We ain't gonna be perfect, but one thing I advise each and every one is just make sure you're right. That's the one thing my grandmother used to always say. She said, I don't care what anyone else does. Make sure you're right. And that's how I'm going to end. No matter what anybody else does, make sure you're right. You've been watching It's Due Time with Pastor Steph. Join us Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. where we discuss matters of the heart, mind, and spirit. As you go through your day, be sure to set your mind on things that are above, not on things that are on the earth. They will only serve as a distraction. Remember, prayer changes things. It's Pastor Steph signing off, and I want to thank my Due Time crew for always coming through, and our men for always taking us into a thought-provoking weekend. Please do not miss this opportunity to just take God right now. Let him be the head of your life right now. Please do not miss the opportunity to strengthen that relationship with the Lord right now, because later is not promised to us. And as you see, later does not necessarily mean death. What God will do with Carmelo behind the bars for 35 years, only God knows. Until we meet again, make sure you subscribe, make sure you put that notification bell on, make sure you share, make sure you comment. If you cannot watch, but you can listen, make sure you hit us up on the podcast side. Yes, we're on the podcast side. Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google, Audible.com, Amazon.com. Pretty much anywhere you can stream from, we're there. So, you may not be able to watch and you're driving or whatever the situation is, you sure can listen. Make sure you tune in and you tell everybody else. Until the next time, God spares, I love you.